To the Point with Beth Malicki is a production of KCRG TV9 News.
Iowans have never elected a woman to the governor's position, nor U.S. Senate, nor U.S. House. Right now, only 23% of Iowa's legislators are women. Only one woman serves on the 9-member city council in Cedar Rapids. Well, there's a new push to get more mothers, daughters, aunts, sisters, even you, to run for elected office. Monica Vernon, who is that lone woman on the Cedar Rapids City Council, joins us today on To the Point. And Maggie Tinsman, you both are part of this group, 50-50 in 2020. Maggie, what is it?
Well, this is a group that we want to, our whole mission is to have more political equity for women in Iowa. By the year 2020 or 2020, which is 100 years since women got the right to vote. And the idea is to have 50% of the legislature be female, 50% of the congressional delegation, as well as a woman governor. And we are tired of being put in the same class as the state of Mississippi. And that's who we're with right now.
As far as how many women are representing you legislatively?
As far as never having a woman governor and never having anyone going to Washington being female.
A recent report came out that showed that women comprise 50% of America's workforce. It's no longer where men are outnumbering women. So why, Monica, in your experience, do you think women are so far behind in Iowa when it comes to representing people in politics?
You know, to me, it's a bit of a mystery. I mean, I think Iowa's been so progressive with women in terms of admitting women to universities, things like that. I do know that from statistics and demographics, women are still bearing more than half of the load in the household. So whether it's the time, their devotion to their children, women do run short of time. So, you know, it's a mystery, but I think through this group we're trying to really nudge more women to get in, throw their hats in.
Why does it matter? You know, some people say, oh, if gender isn't an issue, it shouldn't matter if you're represented by all women, all men, or half of each. Does it matter when women are not representing who really half their constituency is?
Yes, it does, because women have a different lens in which they look at all issues. And they're also better at consensus building. And with the whole kind of uncivility or non-civil politics now, women are better at being more civil to one another. When I was in the Iowa Senate, I never had an attack verbally by a woman. It was always by a man. And so women don't do that. They know how to build consensus. They're more for open government. And in Iowa, they're 53% of the vote. And so we're saying we're not even trying to be the majority. We're just trying to be equal.
Tell me a little bit about your experience in the Iowa Senate. You know, if now it's 23% of the Iowa legislature is female, I'm sure those numbers were even more depressing when you served.
Right. Well, I first started in county government. And like Monica, I think starting in local government is a good base. I was the first woman to ever serve on the Scott County Board of Supervisors, and actually way back in 1978. And I served for 11 years, and then I was in the Iowa Senate for 18 years. Actually, we had a few more women. 1 year, or a couple years that I was there, we had actually 12 women, and now I think there are fewer than that. But it just was an experience that showed me that, for instance, on Fridays, the Senate and the House usually don't work. But I would come in to do my constituent work, the emails, the telephone calls, all that stuff, and I would look around, and who else was working? All the female senators. Whether it was Republican or Democrat, it didn't make any difference. They were all there. And the men were, I guess, back on their home territory. Maybe they were playing golf. Maybe they were doing, I shouldn't say that. They were probably in their law offices.
I'm sure if you were playing golf. I mean, you know.
But anyway,
that's okay.
I think women work harder and they know the issues. And so I think that's important.
There are some statistics to back that up. Recently, that it's shown that women are progressing faster in their careers than men, with a caveat: if they do not leave the workforce to have children. That tends to put a big dent in what happens in a woman's long-term career. It delays them a bit. But for women who don't make that choice, they actually move up faster than men. And there was research that showed exactly what you just detailed. They work harder. I don't know if they're trying to prove themselves or they realize, wait a minute, I'm here, I got to keep this. But is that what you have seen also, Monica?
Absolutely. Studies show that women come prepared. I mean, they take it seriously. And when they're there, they do work hard. And I think the communication thing, I mean, I've learned that after the flood here, what I started doing is I would call everybody that I could on council about every issue, trying to round up people. And I still tend to do that. I still really reach out to people. I think among our council, people will talk to each other, but sometimes I find that I thought everyone was doing that, and that's just would be my way, is let's go have coffee, let's stay in touch, tell me what you're thinking about the issues. So I think that communications thing, kind of part of what Maggie was saying, the consensus building. How are you feeling? Where are you on this? We're used to herding cats.
Yeah,
so,
families.
We're and multitasking, and I think that really, it comes in handy.
Is the problem that there are candidates out there like Roxanne Conlon and other people who are running for office, not just for governor, but for U.S. Senate and that sort of thing, not for governor, but in this case, but that the people don't want to elect a woman? Or is it that there's not enough women who we're getting to choose from as voters?
That's what I think. I think that there just aren't enough women who are stepping forward. And I think part of it also is that women do want to be prepared. And so I think that's part of the purpose of this group, is to identify women and help them. We're going to be putting on an academy so that women have some training, some mentorship, people who've been there in those shoes and can help them out. So, I mean, women are not going to take this lightly. They're not going to just wake up one morning and say, with a bunch of gusto, I'm going to run for office. They're going to tend not to do that. They're going to take it very thoughtfully, and so we need to support them. But I think it's just a lack of women jumping in. I don't think that Iowans don't want to elect women. I don't believe that at all.
It's the critical mass that we need. We now know we have over 1 million really well-educated women in Iowa. And I mean, but it hasn't been thought of as enough of a priority for women. And we want that to be up more on the priority list. I mean, you don't have to wait till you're totally retired. You have your child in the right high school, and then you have your mother in the right nursing home. I mean, you don't have to wait for those kinds of things. Maybe as a young woman before you're married, that's when you should do it. Or maybe later on, yes, you have children and a very supportive spouse, that's when you can do it. You don't have to wait till you're actually retired. But women haven't thought of it that way, and they need to think about it. This isn't an anti-man thing, really. We want to make that
Sure.
Clear.
Because I think that sometimes, if you say we got to have half of all of our representatives and half of all of our senators be women by 2020, that makes a lot of men go, oh, wait, so that means you want to get rid of me? I mean, and you also want to have a woman serving as governor. Well, that means the two people who are running right now, they better be out in 10 years, which they would probably say, we don't want to be here that long anyway. Have you had some concern, you say you're nonpartisan,
Right.
concern that women...
And non-issue.
Women tend to vote, and this is more nationally, not really an Iowa research, so nationally speaking, women tend to just barely support Democrats more than Republicans in the most recent nationwide poll. Has that all come up? Like, well, if we get a lot of women representing a lot of Iowans, the whole state's going to push to the left. Have you heard of that, or am I making that up?
I don't think that's really true.
Okay.
Now, I'm a Republican, and Monica's
A new Democrat.
Democrat, right? And so I don't think that's true. I do think that Democratic women tend to support women more than Republican women. I think that's changing, though. I think what's changed is a generational thing. When I started running, even my own friends, I didn't work outside the home, said, "Oh, what are you doing that? All your children are going to be juvenile delinquents." I went, "Well, that's not my intent," kind of thing. In fact, I brought them along. They all learned how to campaign. That's what happened.
Wow.
But and then they used it on their resumes to get into college, so it worked for them. But anyway, I think now younger women have seen their mothers working outside the home. They've seen their mothers being leaders, even political leaders, and so it's not so strange. And now we just need to say, hey, it's got to be higher up on your agenda of when you want to run for elected office.
Are you working at all with the Democratic parties in Iowa and the GOP in Iowa to say they also want to harvest strong young talent, to really tap into them, to say, let's work together and try to find these local rock stars who are going to really step into public service strongly?
Absolutely. That's our whole idea.
We've got a number of partner groups, and
And our board, we have a board of 14, and 7 are Republican and 7 are Democrats. And part of that is not only to be bipartisan, but to utilize those people and say, now you need to go back to your parties and talk to them about all kinds of women running.
And I think some of this is a long-term thing, like what Maggie talked about. I mean, I love it that you took your kids out on campaign trail, and that I was on the planning commission here, and the only reason I probably was on it is because Joan Lipsky, who served in the Iowa legislature here, insisted to old Mayor Canny that we have gender balance on commissions. I'm not sure we got there. We're still working on that. But I was put on planning commission, and I had a few daycare snafus, and my 3 daughters would come and do homework. Well, I just thought of it as, thank God I can bring them in here. But they saw a woman with a gavel running the meeting, and they began to think that that was just what you did. That was the expectation in our family.
It's normal.
If more women would do that, you know, then more of the younger women would see it as just not a huge, tremendous leap, but just something that you do, that women are comfortable doing.
What about, you know, we've seen the ads that are running right now because of the November 2nd election, and everybody seems to be mudslinging. I mean, it can be very ugly on the airwaves. I think that, in and of itself, can be a big turnoff for anybody who has never done politics before. Who wants to hear about something that they did in high school, or have their words twisted in such a way and made to look like, you know, they hate children and the elderly? Do you think that scares people?
Yes, I think it does, and particularly women even more, because women have a tendency anyway, although I know some of them are doing that, not to do that. And so when political pundits say, oh, you have to go negative, then they do that. But I think women get hurt more when they go negative than men do. And so I think they have to be very, very careful about that. And that's one of the things I didn't do at all, is to go with the negative thing. I thought people should know what I'm about, why I believe this, what my issues are, why I believe that way, and then hopefully I'm representing what they believe. But I really try to stay away from.
And that may be
and what about you?
Well, and that may I really didn't have to do much of that, but I also think, Maggie, just in listening to you, that's probably how we will change it. I mean, there's always byproducts of things you do, and so one byproduct of having 50-50 in 2020 could be a new way of campaigning. Because I think that with 50% women in there as incumbents, they're not going to want to do this. There's going to be less likelihood of, I mean, it may change some of this, and that's what it may take to change it. So it doesn't mean that women won't ever do that, or that the men will always do that. We all have notable examples. But I think that it could be a new normal in campaigning. I really do.
What about outreach for women who are not yet of age to want to do something like this, maybe those in college? Have you had any traction with groups at the university level? We're starting to. First of all, both Carrie Chapman Cat Center has a workshop that they do every other year, and so does Iowa City, the new women's leadership, of which I've actually been part of their
professors, or not really professors, but
An adjunct or
adjunct
Yeah.
person. But the whole idea is to get them interested in thinking about politics now. And with women, you have to do that a number of times. In fact, I've said you really have to ask women at least 3 times to run, and then you have to have somebody say, "Hey, you'd be terrific." And after they hear that a couple times, they say, "Yeah, I think I'll run."
I think I could do that.
So
yeah.
you have to go, to different groups, women's groups, as well as high school,
Really?
college, and talk about, you need to think about this in your career sometime. And I don't mean when you're 80. But women have got to start thinking about it, because as I say, they seem to have to be asked at least 3 times. Men wake up, I've told people, men wake up and look in the mirror in the morning and say, I think I'll be governor. And then they go out and they get all their groups together. And women will get up and they'll say, I'd like to be governor, but first I have to get my master's degree in political science, followed by my law degree, followed by my mother in this perfect nursing home. And I mean, they have umpteen million things they have to do first. And we're saying, no, you don't have to do that.
And I think we've got to get them off of the, and I have to lose 20 pounds before I do that. I mean, we all want to be in good shape, but women are judged.
Why does
women
that matter?
are judged differently.
Oh dear.
And you can hear that on the campaign trail. You can hear that as people talking about what Sarah Palin's wearing, or how someone looks. And I just hope, again, with 50-50 in 2020, there's going to be more women in these offices, and people will pay less attention to that. Comments about what you're wearing. It doesn't have anything to do with how you're going to serve and how you will attack the issues. So I think all of that's an evolution that we're hoping to help people understand that what really does matter, and hopefully we'll be able to evolve away from some of those more superficial things to really the meat.
All right, Monica Vernon, Cedar Rapids City Council, thank you so much. Maggie Tinsman, former senator and leading the force to get more women represented in Iowa politics. Thank you so much for being with us today. Up next, on To the Point, keeping kids engaged after the bell rings. Most parents work outside the home, so what do kids do between 3 and 6 in our community? And how does that affect student achievement, even the crime rate? That's next on To the Point.